Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are looking at the origins of 7 famous band logos. These are the symbols you find on t-shirts, those iconic images that are synonymous with the bands themselves. Without further ado, let's dive in. First on our list is the asterisk used by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The story goes that the band was pressed to come up with an image that they could use for t-shirts, merchandise, and the like. Anthony Kiedis quickly sketched out this 8-point star-like thing and passed it on to the powers that be. Himself and guitarist John Frusciante, as well as many fans worldwide, would go on to get this tattooed on their wrists. There's a striking similarity between the logo and the Star of Affinity, a symbol of chaos seen throughout pop culture, though there is no known connection. Rather, Anthony has since gone on to refer to his design as an angel's asshole. The Beatles typeface is the image most commonly associated with the band, but in many of their albums, an apple can be found. What's the story with this graphic? Well, rewind to the 60s and the Beatles decided to start their own company. In John Lennon's words, "Our accountant came up and said, 'We got this amount of money, do you want to give it to the government or do something with it?' So we decided to play businessmen for a bit because we've got to run our own affairs now. So we've got this thing called Apple, which is going to be records, films, and electronics." It was Paul who came up with the name, and since they were starting a company and a business they knew little about, they decided to go back to the basics. And Paul figured, what's the first thing we're all taught as school children? Well, A is for Apple. They originally wanted to use the name Apple Core, but since that couldn't be trademarked, they used Apple Core. The obvious logo was an apple. Apart from a handful of lawsuits, there is no relationship between this company and the Apple that builds computers and iPhones. Next on our list is the Radiohead bear, a rather twisted looking flat image that seemingly has nothing to do with the band or its music. In fact, this graphic was never used in any official album art, but was instead spread through the promotional material for Kid A. So where does this furry friend come from? Well, according to Stanley Donwood, who does all the art for the group, I first drew it for my daughter when she was about 1. It was part of a story about how forgotten toys wake up in dusty boxes and go and eat the adults who abandon them. Okay, well that's terrifying, and here's what Tom York had to say about how it became associated with the band. Stanley Donwood and I started doing this thing, Test Specimen, a cartoon about giving birth to a monster, the Frankenstein thing. For example, the bear logo, that is the Test Specimen, the first mutant. The idea was loosely based on stuff we were reading about genetically modified food. We got obsessed with the idea of the mutation entering the DNA of the human species. One episode was about these teddy bears that mutate and start eating children. Again, also terrifying. Next on our list is perhaps the most iconic band image of all time, the Rolling Stones mouth and tongue logo. The Stones were among the first to brand their band with a graphic, but Mick Jagger, being the ever-savvy businessman he was, knew there was money to be made. So in 1969, he went to London's Royal College of Art to find an artist. There he discovered John Pash, a 24-year-old who had designed the iconic graphic for a mere 50 quid. Originally, Mick wanted to use a large-lipped Hindu goddess named Kali as the inspiration, but instead found himself being the model. In John's words, "I went into this sort of wood-paneled boardroom and there he was. Face to face with him, the first thing you were aware of was the size of his lips and mouth." The logo debuted on their 1971 album Sticky Fingers and has gone on to generate countless dollars in revenue. Not bad for a 50 quid investment. The origins of Nirvana's smiley face logo are a bit unclear, and the best thing we can do with this is speculate. It debuted on a poster advertising the release party for their album Nevermind. It would seem to be a play on that famous yellow and black smiley face that rose to popularity in the 70s. Most agree it was something that Kurt drew. He was an avid doodler and this was consistent with his work. The most commonly accepted theory is that it was inspired by a sign on a Seattle strip club called the Lusty Lady. The similarity is striking, and it's not far-fetched to think that Kurt may have come across this. We'll never know the true origins of this logo. Maybe it's simply someone in a state of nirvana. Next up, we have the Grateful Dead's Steal Your Face logo. Back in the 60s, the Dead were playing a lot of festivals, and backstage at these events, there were countless cases of gear that all looked the same. So longtime soundman for the group, Bear Stanley, decided that they needed some sort of system that would make it easier to identify the band's equipment. His idea, spray paint a logo on everything. The original design was a red and blue circle with a white lightning bolt going through the middle of it. This was inspired by a road sign he'd seen while driving through Northern California. He showed the concept to his roommate and graphic designer Bob Thomas, who then went on to come up with the image we now associate with the Grateful Dead. Last on our list are the 4 symbols used by Led Zeppelin. In a move to spite the critics, the band decided that their 4th album wouldn't have a name. Instead, it would feature these 4 symbols. They had never been critically acclaimed and felt that it would be difficult on the people reviewing their album if it didn't even have a name. At the same time, Jimmy Page was diving deeper and deeper into the occult and had each band member pick a metaphysical symbol from a book of runes. Robert Plant Grant's feather in a circle represents peace. John Bonham's 3 rings represent unity, and John Paul Jones's spirographic looking thing represents self-confidence. Jimmy Page designed his own symbol resembling the word Zozo, and these 4 symbols became the band's album name. They forever became linked to the group and appeared on many a t-shirt that a teenage me owned. There you have it, the origins of 7 famous band logos. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you know some other logos or band symbols that you'd like me to check out in a future video, let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider heading over to my Patreon. It's through that program that I'm able to bring you videos like these. I also offer a monthly giveaway to everyone involved. This month's prize is the Dan Electro Filthy Rich Tremolo, as well as a t-shirt. I randomly select one patron to give these prizes to every month, and besides that, there are a bunch of other unique rewards. Hit that link over there for more details. Until next time, I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.